Welcome to Debt Free in IT. My name is Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT field, whether you're trying to advance your career or you're trying to make a career change. So please like, subscribe, click the notification bell. If you know someone who this podcast may interest, please send this episode to them. So today we're going to go into how to pursue your goals when life happens. So we all know that you have goals that you want to pursue, whether it's getting an IT, maybe losing weight, whatever have you. Some of my goals mostly has been IT. So I'm just going to show you some of the tools that I use to help me when life happens, because there's no perfect time to start. You just have to get started, start doing things, because we all know when you sit there and try to wait for everything to be right, that time would never come. So here's some of the tools that I'm going to go over that I use whenever I find myself stuck in a rut, or maybe I have new goals I'm trying to obtain. So it's just some things that I use. Hopefully you get something from this. Hopefully it helps you out. If you have something different, please leave it in the comment section if whatever you do to get out of a rut. So let's get to it. So the first tool I use whenever I'm in a rut and I need to get out of a rut sounds weird, but I go buy a planner. So, a planner, you can get a physical planner, or you can find planners online that may be, virtual planner, or some kind of OneNote or something like that. One good planner that I know of that I use sometimes is Notion, which you can go in and build a planner template where you can go in and plan out your day. Other than that, I usually order a physical one. One physical one that I like is the Grant Cardone planner, the 10 times planner. So I just like the layout of it and how it helps you to plan out the hours of your day. So what I do is I get this planner. With this planner, I'm able to write down my goals. Then I'm able to break them into smaller goals. It helps me prioritize my goals, and it lets me focus on one goal at a time. Then I'm able to use that planner, to plan out my day. And this gives me a picture of where I can find free time. If you say, oh, I don't have time to study, I don't have time to do this, then using this planner will let you get that free time. So once I get the planner, I write down my goals, then I break them into smaller goals. Then I start, as your planner, like I said, I have the calendar in there. So I start planning out my day. And then what I do, I include whatever my goal is. And after I broke it down to a smaller goal, so let's say if it's to right now I'm studying for the DevNet, Cisco DevNet certification. So one thing I did is I wrote down that that's my long-term goal. So I want to try to get it by June, July. So then I broke that down into smaller goals that's more obtainable. So I broke it down to, let's say I want to study an hour a day. So each day I go to my planner and I write down whatever time I want to study. And usually it's in the afternoon. So I say, okay, I set a time. Okay, I want to study for an hour each day. Maybe on the weekends you may get 2 hours in, or maybe on the weekends you want to decide that this is going to be the day that you don't study at all. So I write down my goals. And like I said, started planning out my day. And then what I do, I like to make it a kind of a challenge to see how many days I can go hitting whatever I wrote down to do. So what I would do is when that day comes, I would study, try to study for my hour. And another good tool, which brings me to the second tool I like, is that I use what's called a Pomodoro timer. So you have plenty of apps out there where you can get this from. But what this timer does, it lets me set intervals of my study time. So you can make different categories, and then you can make different categories and things inside of the app. Let's say for me, I'm studying for the DevNet cert. Let's say if you're studying for something else, you can put that in a category, and then you can set your timer. So usually what I do is to keep myself from getting bored, I usually set it to 30 minutes with a 5-minute break the first round, And then after that first round, I'll do another 30 minutes. And after that 30 minutes, it's a 10-minute break usually. So what this does is when I set that timer, it helps me to be able to concentrate on what I'm doing without constantly picking up my phone, scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook. So I'm able to kind of focus on exactly what I'm trying to achieve. So I go 30 for my hour. After 30 minutes, it gives you the alarm beeps. So then for that 5-minute break, if I want to scroll or whatever I want to do, I'm able to do that. Then after that, it gives you another alarm for back studying. And then sometimes what I find the case is that most of the time after that hour is up, I'm able to continue to study because I may not be burnt out yet. So usually I end up going maybe 2 hours. So this Pomodoro timer, like I said, it helps me out a lot. And then at the end of let's say when I obtain my certification, I'm able to go back inside of that app and look at all the time I've put into studying for that certification. So it's usually just something for conversation, something may call it bragging rights, where I can be like, hey man, I put 75 hours into this DevNet certification, so I did an hour a day, so a lot of times the main thing is to, just take your long-term goal, break it down into smaller goals. And like I said, this way it's going to help you to achieve that goal because doing an hour a day doesn't seem like much, but eventually that hour adds up, it compounds, so we know how strong compound interest is. So pretty much what I'm doing is I'm setting smaller intervals, but those intervals are adding up for the bigger goal to where, one day it may be just I'm reading for an hour. I might be reading on a certain topic for an hour. The next day I might come back, I might be doing labs on it for an hour. Or the next day I might be watching videos for an hour. So that's two of the things I use. So that planner, like I said, that planner is going to come in clutch. I've never used a planner before until probably about 3 years ago. Maybe I started using a planner, and then when I saw how it was helping me to focus on whatever I was trying to do, I kind of stuck with it. Sometimes I'll fall off the wagon where, I go a couple weeks without using it. Usually then when I need to get back on the wagon, I like to start off fresh. So sometimes I may order a whole new planner or I may use the online version that I have in Notion. But, you can go to Amazon. This is not being sponsored by them or anything, but that's usually where I order a lot of my items. But you can go there, you find different planners. And like I said, it helps you to find that free time. Then it helps you to because usually after you see it written down, it makes you want to stick to it. So because it's like a task that you have to do. Some people may put tasks up on their PC where different tasks they have for the day. So it's the same thing except for I'm writing my task down. It helps me to achieve it. So you have the planner and then the Pomodoro timer. So like I said, searching your app, whether iPhone or Android. I think the one I have is called Be Focused. So like I said, it's pretty good. So with those, and then I have one other tool or trick that I use. So the last thing I use and start to do is on my commute to work or whether I'm going traveling anywhere, usually my commute to work is about 20 minutes. If I'm going to the city, I'm in the country setting now. So if I go to the city, that's about an hour drive for me. So what I usually do is I try to make myself real interested in the topic. Usually, if I'm studying for the cert, I'm somewhat interested in it for some reason. But I try to make myself more interested by I start finding resources of people who have the cert or people who study it also, and I start listening to them. So a good thing is the Apple Podcast on my iPhone user. So I go to Apple Podcast. Hopefully, you're listening to my podcast there. But inside of Apple Podcast, I'll search for whatever the topic is. So if it's DevNet, I may search for Cisco DevNet, see what it comes up. One thing with DevNet, if you're familiar with it, it has a lot of Python code in it. So what I do is right now I'm studying the Python portion of it. So I put in Python inside of Apple Podcast app, and it brings up everything about Python. Usually I try to find a podcast that's interviewing someone about Python or telling how they learn it, and just something to give me that extra motivation. Hearing someone else's story, it gives you that extra boost, that extra motivation to try to obtain your goal. So, like I said, sometimes having that motivation or seeing someone else talk about it, it's just enough to make you get up that day and do that hour. So, this is some of the things I use. Like I said, this week's podcast was pretty short, but I just wanted to go into because I talk to a lot of people, and it's always, hey, I want to do this, but I can't find the time. Hey, I want to do this, but I have to do something for my family or do something with my kids, which is all good. But once you get that planner, you will see where you do have a couple hours that you're not using that you can utilize to try to pursue your goals. So, like I said, go get the planner, get the Pomodoro timer. Then after that, I plan on making a video of how I got my CCNA, and that's going to give you the steps. So then you come up with that game plan. You may want to do 2 hours a day. Usually I advise you to don't go high because you're going to get burnt out quick. If you set a high goal, oh, I want to study 3 hours a day, it's going to be hard to reach that. But an hour a day, if you can't do an hour, say I want to study 30 minutes a day. So everyone, you can find 30 minutes somewhere in your day. So like I said, hopefully you got something from this. Like I said, if you think you know someone who this may interest, please send them this podcast. Please like, subscribe. If you're listening on let me please leave me a review. Also in the comments, let me know what cert you're studying for, or how do you get yourself focused whenever you fall off the bandwagon. I can't wait to hear what you say. Like I said, other than that, we're about to wrap up this episode. Follow me on all social media, Debt Free and IT. Like I said, subscribe to the podcast if you're listening in your favorite podcast app. What I'm saying? If you're listening on YouTube, click like, subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what's going on in your life. Let me know what you're studying for. Let me